Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Don from 1A Auto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And the next time you need a part for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to be showing you how to replace a rear wheel and hub bearing assembly on this 2006 Chevy Impala. We'll be showing you the right hand or passenger side. Procedure is the same for the left hand or driver's side. And it's the same for any 2006 to 2012 Impala, as well as 2004 to 2008 Grand Prix, and a whole slew of other GM vehicles. You'll need a new wheel bearing and hub assembly from 1AAuto.com, 10, 13, 14, and 19 millimeter sockets with a ratchet. You'll need a breaker bar or a pipe for some extra leverage, a T30 Torx bit, flat blade screwdriver, a hammer, a large C-clamp, wire brush, and of course jack and jack stands. Now use your 19 millimeter socket and remove the lug covers, and on this wheel or this vehicle you'll remove a wheel cover. And then if you don't have the benefit of air tools, you'll want to loosen the lug nuts with the vehicle on the ground, then raise and support the vehicle and remove the lug nuts, wheel and tire. On the back side of the caliper there are two 14 millimeter bolts to remove, and I'll fast forward as we remove those. Once you finish taking those bolts out, then the rear caliper actually just comes right up and off, and you can put it up top on the strut. You want to make sure you hang it so it doesn't affect the hose, and then you can just pull your brake pads right off. On the back side of the bracket that holds the caliper, there are two 13 millimeter bolts, and you probably need a breaker bar or maybe a pipe for some extra leverage to get those going, but we'll remove those. And as you remove the bolt, just pull that bracket right off. Now use a screwdriver and hold the lugs, and you'll need a T30 Torx bit. You'll probably need the style that you can hook onto a ratchet handle like that, and remove the screw that holds in your brake disc. And now if you give the brake disc a couple of good hits with a hammer, you'll be able to take it off. Now you can look through one of the holes and you'll see that there are 4 bolts that hold the hub in, and you'll just go right through with a breaker bar. Those are 10 millimeters, and I'll fast forward here as we remove those 4 bolts. Small screwdriver, go in from behind and pry the tabs on the connection and pull the connector off. Okay, now use a hammer, and I'm actually using 2 hammers, one to put on there and one to hit the other hammer with. And we do this in a little uncontrolled. What you'll want to do actually is just keep one of the bolts in there just loose, so that when the hub and backing plate come off, they don't drop like that. Now there's a small pin. Use a hammer to get it started moving, and then you just go to a small screwdriver and push it the rest of the way out. A large screwdriver or a pair of pliers, and remove the spring. And then you can feed the emergency brake cable back through the bracket. And that little piston came out. We're going to just take that piston and put it back in where it belongs. And now there are two T30 torque screws that hold the backing plate. Okay, once you have those screws out, you put that bracket aside and pull the backing plate up and off the hub, and then the ring up and off the hub. You can see here on the right, new hub from 1A Auto. On the left, the original. New hub has the correct connection and everything. It's going to install just like the original. Use a wire brush and clean out the area where the hub mounts. Then you can use some grease. We're using a little bit of white grease, but bearing grease or anything like that will do to ease getting the hub back in. You can see how we have the backing plate oriented, and put that ring on and put your hub through. And you want to make sure that the connector on the hub is facing the same way as the opening in that backing plate. And then we want to put the e-brake activator in, and figure out that it's a little bit easier to do it without that arm in. You want to put that in place and then just work the emergency brake shoes into place correctly and seat everything down. Now turn it all over and line up the hole in the e-brake activator with the hole in the backing plate, and then put that bracket on. Again, the hole where the cable goes in faces the same way as the connector, and we'll fast forward as we put both those T30 bolts back in and tighten them up. Now put the actuator lever back in. Here we're going to reinstall the cable, put it onto the lever first, pull it back down in, and then press and get it locked into that bracket. And then once you have it locked in there, reinsert the pin. Now put the spring back in place, and then you want to use a pair of pliers. We're using locking vice grip style pliers to hold on to that spring, pull it, and put it back in place. Now take the whole parking brake and hub assembly and put it up against the flange. Turn that hub so that you can see through and line up one of the holes. Then basically load one of the 10mm hub bolts into the wrench, feed it through and in, and start it in. And we'll fast forward as we put all those in, and then we'll tighten them up. And you want to tighten them up to about 45 to 50 foot-pounds each. On the back side, reconnect your ABS connector. Before you put the disc back on, you'll probably need to adjust the emergency or parking brake a little bit, and you can see what we're doing there with the screwdriver. We're turning that wheel. Then put the rotor back on. If you need to adjust that parking brake a little bit more, you can take it back off and adjust it more. Put the screw on that holds the rotor in place and tighten that. Okay, put the caliper bracket back in place and start the two 13mm bolts in. And we'll fast forward here as we tighten those up. And we're going to tighten those to 75 foot-pounds. Okay, now we're going to put our brake pads back in place. We put a little grease on them just to make sure that they can still go back and forth in those slides. If you want more information on how to do your brakes, you can check out our other videos. We'll put our caliper back in place and start in the two bolts, 14mm bolts that hold it in place. And we'll keep the pace going as we put the wheel and tire on and put on the lug nuts, tighten them up preliminarily. And with the vehicle back down on the ground, we'll tighten and torque the lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds using a star pattern. And once they've been properly torqued, we'll put the wheel cover back on and tighten the caps up. We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.oneauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.